Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 22nd of May. With McShane, we begin reading the letters of John. And first letter of John, chapter 1, begins, "That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked at and our hands have touched, this we proclaim concerning the word of life." So here is John grounding his message and saying, I'm talking about this Jesus that I saw, that I heard, that we touched, that we interacted with. This was the real human Jesus. This wasn't a vision. This wasn't a philosophy. This wasn't an idea. This was a person. And John knew that because he'd interacted with him. He'd seen him. He touched him. And he says, this is what our faith is grounded in this man. But he also recognizes it's more than a man because he describes him as the word of life. And John had come to see who Jesus was, and he's one of the people that understands his divinity. And a little later in that chapter, in verse 5, he says, "This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all." And this is a challenge and an encouragement. God is light. And the challenge is that we live in a dark world. And we look around us and we see darkness all about. And God will not be part of that. And many times people try to include God in their programs and their ideas. And we see that in politics. And as we're heading to the election, there are many, many people that would like to claim God as a party member for them, that God's on their side. But in actual fact, God says, no, I have nothing to do with darkness. And there's so much of the world that is sinful and evil. And God is completely different. But at the same time, John also writes at the beginning of his gospel that Jesus came as the light of the world and he stepped into the world. And a little later, he recognizes that we all are part of the darkness. We all sin. And he says, if we claim we haven't sinned, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. But then we have the good news. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. And so God comes to take the darkness from us, to take us out of the darkness and incorporate us into the light. And so as we go through life, we recognize that we are part of the light, but we live in the midst of darkness. And we look at how Jesus behaved. And he always welcomed people, no matter who they were. He was described as the friend of sinners. He didn't reject them and say, "Oh, you're full of darkness, you're completely sinful." No, he said, "Come." But he brought people near in order to change them. And so we need to get into the world as light. Let the light of Christ shine through us. Not to compromise, but to say, let's take the light into the darkness. And to draw people to the light. And to be able to say, there is forgiveness, there is healing, there is restoration, there is a new start. You can become part of the light because of Jesus. And that's the gospel. That's the good news we have. So be encouraged to let that light shine through you day by day. Be blessed.